catch up with our Alicante lawyers, Pellicer Heredia, Ignacio and Pedro with us in the studio today. I'm very, very happy about the football at the weekend. Of course, big football fans. How's it going, guys?
Yeah, good afternoon. Buenas tardes.
You enjoy that? Enjoy that on Sunday?
Yeah, we were very happy.
Were you in any doubt? Did you doubt at all that Spain...
obviously. I mean, it was a great game. It was a second half, fantastic. Anyone could win, really, at the end.
Yeah.
At the end, both of them, they had the possibilities.
Yeah.
And
yeah. You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
Yeah.
It was a good game.
It's easy from your side. But the best team won the tournament, I have to say.
Yeah,
I think we won like 7 games at the end.
Yeah,
Croatia against Italy, then France, Germany.
Yeah.
You went through the hard side of the group.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we have a good team.
A good team.
Young people and
many of them are very young. Yeah, many of them are very
young.
Some
amazing substitutes.
Yeah.
And Danny Olmo's available apparently, so we know.
Yeah.
Any chance we might see him playing at Hercules at any time soon, perhaps? You know, I mean,
well, that would be fantastic. But Danny Olmo right now is like a hero in Spain.
Yeah. He's going to go for big money, and it's going to be one of the top 3 or 4 teams, right? I think. Yeah. Excellent. Right. So we've been talking about taxes, the tax planning and so on has been what we've been focusing on over the last sort of couple of months. Where is that now? Is everything's in, and you should all be getting your rebates by now, shouldn't we?
Well, actually,
we know that Rudy got it.
Well, actually, I mean, we were stressed all these 3 months in a row because it's very stressful.
A lot of paperwork.
A lot of information, people trying to understand their own files, their own, information. But yes, we made it. We made it successfully. We made it. It was a challenge because we've got a lot of people and everybody needs to understand, and we need to squeeze the appointments and to fit you in, and clients needs to understand it. And in
the end, we don't like just to make some draft document and give it to the client and sign. You have to pay €1,000, and we don't like that. We like to check all the documents, like personal, like hand to hand, and say check what we are doing, check what the client is saying, and at the end, we are more effective. We are very accurate on that, and we are very accurate in what we do. And obviously, at the end, it's more effective to the client. But obviously, we need more time. Yeah.
You have a lot of foreign clients, of course. And it's a minefield anyway. The Spanish tax system, even if you're Spanish, right?
Yeah.
Well, even if you're Spanish, it's fine. But with the international clients, you need to understand very much their income, their situation, their dual taxation treaties. So it's a very accurate exercise. I wouldn't recommend, just as Pedro said, just sign and go. Well, some people, if it's straightforward, you could do that on a video conference or just not really needed an appointment. But in general terms, we prefer always personal appointments, so you are accurate.
Well, I mean, just to check documents perfectly, being accurate on. For example, we have American clients or from UK. I mean, all these financial products that they get some interest, dividends, or some withdrawal from some accounts that they have done. All that, I mean, in order to transmit into an income declaration, obviously we need to do it correctly, and with exchange rate and everything. Your
worldwide income has to be declared, does it?
Exactly.
Yes, so
that's right.
Correct.
Okay,
that's correct.
So what happens? Do they come along and check afterwards? The tax office is that what they do?
I always say, every time we have the appointment, I always try to inform clients to be prepared for an inspection. Because you never know, at least you need to keep everything up to 4 years. Because you never know whether they're going to knock on the door and they're going to say, could you please double check and show me the evidence about why you're declaring this? And
sometimes the tax office has already contacted the country of, in this case, UK, for example. They do. And the UK, the informing tax office in Spain, says, we have this information for you. You made this declaration, and these are contradiction in this.
Yeah, because in the UK it goes from I think it's April to April, isn't it?
Yeah.
And here it goes from January to December. So sometimes even tax office gets confused about the figures because of different calendar years. I mean, we use
that's right.
And but yes, tax office in general, if you will ask Nuria, our secretary, she's the one who gets all the letters from the taxman. And the postman goes there, and pretty much she was telling me that he sits by her, handing hundreds of letters, asking for information.
Yeah.
And but you never know here, Carl. I mean, you could get an inspection anytime.
I was going to ask, how long does that go on for?
It depends on clients. If you provide the paperwork to prove it, probably they will close the file, and it could take probably only 6 months.
It could be very fast. Obviously, some of them are not in Spanish, or in English, or the language we need to translate. Things needs to be a little bit more, but could be very fast in order to show what you are declaring really. Because whenever you declare your income tax declaration, you do not provide documents at all. You just make a declaration. You say, my income is this, my salary, or I get some this from my pension, I get this from my interest, but you don't bring any document. You just declare what you understand you are getting as an income.
Yeah, because it's self-assessment.
Whether the tax man believes what you've said.
Yeah. It's self-assessment, and at the end of the day, that's what we always say to clients. This is self-assessment. We are supposed to tell them what it is, but we don't need that to attach it to your compliant form.
Okay, so it's just the form that goes in with no evidence. So,
but you need to make sure. That's why it's very important. You need to make sure that if, in case they do questions, you have everything ready.
We need to be pretty sure that what the information is given to us is accurate, is perfectly. We say to the clients, obviously, that to sign a document, that the documents, the information they give to us is correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty much like a letter of consent. Yeah. They authorize us to do it, but they are declaring that all this information is correct, because we will not remember so much information from clients. And it is important that they're really aware that this could happen.
I mean, then you've got your own taxes to do and the companies as well on top of that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
and we always have all these nice letters from tax office.
I bet you did.
So we know.
They try and catch you out.
They try hard.
I understand that you're pretty successful in your dealings with the authorities on certain subjects.
Yeah, there is always something, isn't it?
I bet. Yeah. So when do we need to think about and worry about our taxes? Is that it now? We don't have to think about it for a while? Or is there more on the way?
To do tax planning.
Yeah, that's right.
You could plan ahead.
You do.
Actually, for example, yesterday I have an appointment with a client that they say, well, where are we right now? I mean, obviously we inform, okay, next year you are tax resident this year, because last year he was not tax resident. But next year he will have to, obviously, to declare the 720 when you have assets more than 50,000 euros abroad. And then you will have to make the tax return for May and June. But in order to know what you're going to pay in May, June next year about your income in 2024, you need to now. It's good that make a tax planning, because, for example, October, November. What if you want to withdraw some money because you want to make some works in your house?
Yeah.
What if you want to sell your property and then buy another one next year? Well, those things is good to do it this year to prevent what is going to happen next year, or to know what is going to pay, or maybe not to do it, or maybe to do it in a different way.
So you need to think 12 months ahead, generally.
Exactly.
Well, we're still in time to think about next year.
Before 31st of December.
Because if you realize we are just in July, so that's another good point to say for those who spend more than 6 months here. If they didn't spend 6 months, they could still turn out into a non-resident if they want. So there is a lot of financial and tax decision because you have full control of your assets and situation. But I always say the best thing you could do is do tax planning if you want to know a possible estimate.
Yeah, and also the double taxation treaties, this is an example. When you become resident in Spain, but you maybe this first year, you are maybe tax resident in both countries. This happens a lot.
In the first year?
In the first year, it happens a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You are tax resident and you fulfill the requirements in the UK or in a different country and in Spain. And then the rule normally in double taxation treaties is, okay, well, wherever you have available property in order to live. Okay, what if you have properties in both countries? Well, then we have a vital center of your economic center. And then what is that? Then the concept of how do we argue and interpret in case there is an inspection in the future?
It is that, I think, when you first move here, where you could actually be selling a property in your home country, buying one in Spain, and then that sort of crossover year, wherever it happens, that's a lot to take in.
That's another perfect example. And when you sell is your permanent home in home country, you may live there more than 3 years, then you sell, you buy another one, you reduce obviously the capital gains tax in case that. Well, that's the issues that obviously we inform to tax planning to prevent that.
I think you save a lot of money doing these exercise. I mean, I remember, and I'm happy on the appointments when you see how much value you give to clients doing one way or the other. You know, we're talking about thousands of euros with the right direction. Because it's not the same to doing it with the wrong foot. Rather than you putting yourself into the right picture.
Yeah, and clients that can pay on this, wealth tax, Comunidad Valenciana is a wealth tax, still wealth tax, maybe it's going to be eliminated. Well, we understand it's going to be eliminated for next year. But then we also have a solidarity tax, which is individually more than from 3.7 million euros. So when someone, there are clients that have some kind of assets, but then we ask about your marriage economic agreement and say, we are like communal, all of the assets are together. So maybe they have both together 4 million euros, and then they realize that they do not cross the line in the solidarity tax. And that appointment, that is a 1 hour appointment, just a consultation, gives them possibility to say, okay, now I can move to Valencia area. Because before that, they're thinking about...
I think Antonio mentioned this, that it's different for Spain than it might be in other countries, say for the UK, with a married couple, and taxes and ownership can be a different
Yeah, it could be a different,
thing.
That's right. In Spain we have two different kind of regimes. It's like a separación de bienes, which is like assets. Whenever you buy an asset, property or whatever, is your own asset. But if it's in a marriage agreement, in terms of everything what you buy, everything you acquire, is communal, then it's communal. Whatever you acquire before your marriage is private. And then whatever your inheritance is private. This is not the same in the UK, it's different. So obviously you need to understand both systems in order to understand if that asset specifically is communal from the marriage or is a private asset from each individual one.
That's why you need experts, absolutely. And the webinar coming up in a little while, guys, on estate planning, inheritance taxes and wills today. You've been talking about the sorts of money that people can save if they do things correctly. Just give an example of perhaps what you could save.
Well, it is just, we normally recommend, obviously, we're talking about explaining in order to make some simulations on play really with numbers, play with products, play with income. Obviously, with those ones that can do that. There are some of them, they have some income that is fixed income. This is not kind of change anything, or this is what it is. But in many occasions, we are able to, in order to be flexible, to get income from someone withdraws some money so we can in some way expect what is going to be paying in case that they do this thing, or scenario A, scenario B, scenario C, for example.
Okay.
So, and obviously we recommend which is the scenario, then we recommend maybe it's another scenario that hasn't been thought about that.
Different way of doing
obviously,
it.
all the people has their own needs and life, and obviously needs to be adapted what is needed. But in some ways, tax planning could be savings, and we have many examples of hundreds of euros or thousands of euros, depending on obviously the income. But we do that a lot. We make simulations about not just income tax, also inheritance tax.
Yeah.
When someone wants to become resident, what will be my inheritance, my beneficiaries? Or what about making a gift? What about if I'm non-resident? This is what we're talking about.
Today. This is part of it, the whole estate planning, isn't it? Because a will isn't actually legal. You don't have to have a will in Spain, do you? Obviously, it's recommended that you do.
It's not compulsory.
It's not compulsory.
No, it's not compulsory.
But really, it's a good idea.
But it's highly recommended because you are protecting your beneficiaries and your, everything, the way you want to do things. For example, it's not the same you leave it to your husband or wife, or husband, wife and children, or that's group one, which, to be honest, this is great nowadays.
In the Valencia region,
they
have already now cancelled that inheritance tax for the first line, yeah?
That's pretty much, yeah. You have a big allowance, plus you have 99% reduction on whatever tax you need to pay. So that's excellent. But if you want to leave it to a friend of yours, to your neighbor, which I've been dealing with this inheritance, I have no family, I leave it to my neighbor. So obviously it's a high tax. But if you do tax planning, as we were discussing with the income tax return, is exactly the same that with inheritance tax or with estate planning. First, you need a will. Mm-hmm. That's the title that will give the distribution of assets for the executor to enforce it or to be enforced. And then second is the tax. So there is a way for you to control it. And you could do tax scenarios. You could say, how about if we do it this way? Or how about if we do it that way? I know the laws, we could only talk, Carl, about what the law is today.
Of course. Sometimes the law changes.
Yeah, and unfortunately...
Sometimes it's not always to the benefit of us.
Yeah.
Not like the last one it was, but yeah.
Because, in Andalusia, all the regions had ups and downs. We had this regime long time ago that they changed it, and it was very expensive to pass away here in this region. It was more expensive. Then they've changed it again. Madrid, Andalusia, I think Balearic as well.
That's right.
And this area are very efficient for Group 1.
Depends to which government is in charge in the regional
That's correct,
area. And
because the politics
the
approach.
ones who are changing right now is the Partido Popular, which is the PP party, and the government of Spain is in the PSOE, it's PSOE.
Yep, sorry.
And they are like all the time in dispute.
There is.
Yeah,
We
we're always
noticed this.
fighting, always fighting, and I mean, I think one wants to reduce apparently a bit more taxes, apparently, because they never reduce it enough.
Generally, it's the one that's not in power is the one that's promising to reduce, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
In any
Yeah.
politic situation and anywhere around the world. But it's very important, I think, for people to start thinking about this before they become ill or before something happens suddenly, isn't it? You really need to look at the whole estate planning whilst you're still healthy, yeah?
And plus power of attorney as well. So I always think, is as you said, it's not compulsory, but it's good to have power of attorney, to have a will, and to do tax planning. I think that's very efficient. And probably it's because of our experience and age and seeing so many things. Every time I try to spend more time discussing things with clients, because I try to wear the shoes that we will be us, the executors, sorting it out in the future, and trying to avoid any possible problems that will become.
So what are the sort of problems that you've come up against, for instance?
Well, one of the things I would not recommend probably is to leave inheritance to a lot of people, especially if they're not legal age. It could give a lot of nightmare. It's better more a legacy for the executor to pay and do bank transfer, rather than saying that was one that I struggle a lot. It was 9 people involved, probably 7 grandchildren. So you need a lot of power of attorney.
So that's normal, though. People want to leave something to all of their family. So it's quite a difficult thing to do in Spain.
Well, if you transfer money is okay, but if you need to inherit, put the property in their name. You need an NI number. You need a power of attorney.
They need an NIE.
And then they need to sell. To sell, we need an affidavit of laws that the parents of the children could sell. So I'm not saying it is not possible. It's possible.
This is why you need the planning to get everything in place.
If you really want to do that, you need to face all this. And if it's worth it for you, just know that this inheritance will not be straightforward. I mean, we've achieved that. We've done it, and it went perfect. But the path is being pretty difficult for them. For us, it's just work. But for them to go through so much stress.
More time, complexity. Also, one
and
thing
if you're dealing in a situation where somebody's passed away as well, that you've already got that, you're dealing with all of that. There's the funeral, there's the issues with the bank always, and all kinds of other things going on. So if you can get as much sorted out before that happens, the better.
And information. We know, and this is statistics in Spain, that there is a lot of money that is, it never goes to beneficiaries because the beneficiaries do not know where they are. Do not even know they exist.
Yeah.
So a lot of money, a lot of millions of euros.
Yeah. So it's just sat there because the people you can't find the people who it's meant to go to.
No, not the people. It's just the assets. I mean, imagine that you have a bank account in Bank of America, and the beneficiaries do not know, and we don't know, so that will never be given to the beneficiaries. And the bank will never know, or we just hide and will say no.
No, everybody looks after their own interests. So
at the end, we obviously, to our clients, who are clients that every year with us, obviously we tell them, and obviously when we make we make a tax planning on inheritance, we say, give us a list of where the assets are. So we will, for sure, we will know where they are, and we'll obviously have a bank in Japan or something in what is in.
I see what you're saying. I can understand the complications.
Yeah.
If nobody knows, if no beneficiaries knows about, we always say that, and actually we are trying to upload it in their file. Nothing official because it could change tomorrow. Yeah. But if the beneficiaries don't know anything about the assets, if we don't know the asset, who gets that?
Yeah, remember we had like a client. It's a house here in Marinalda. I will not say the municipality, but some agents has the keys, but the property was closed, and we didn't know absolutely anything. We knew that was a beneficiary outside of Spain. We didn't know, so we had to look for bags and everything. Obviously, we go to the post box and we just check all the letters that were there. But we don't know if something else left somewhere in the world.
I'm sure it will be. I'm sure it'll be money in the bank. The bank will never say anything because it will not contact the beneficiaries. I haven't seen that case happening. Properties abroad, who knows? If nobody contacts...
So important to make a will. Obviously, it's not compulsory, it's not an obligation, but the beneficiaries to know who are the executors, a copy of the will, mainly, obviously, or the executor, or maybe some beneficiaries, the assets where they are. Things, that all the information in order to be sure that at the end, the path that you have create or agreed in a will or what you want, it will happen at the end.
And another important thing sometimes, doing the planning allows you to control the way you want, and the executor, if he's the lawyer, could tell you what they think about that possible scenario, because everything is possible, but to what extent?
And what's the best legal and most cost-effective way as well, I guess.
I remember that inheritance. I remember these Peter telling me, Ignacio, this is what I want. And we accepted, and that was fine. But later on, the wife said, I wish we never did this way. Well, that was his wishes, wasn't it? So, but the stress you need to go through, and then as Pedro said, where is the money? How many things he had? Does anybody know? Well, people don't know. And the banks just, to a certain level, they just block the account and they keep the money.
Yeah,
until somebody claims.
In Spain, obviously, this is something that it's passed around regularly between people. If somebody passes away, they'll close the account, even if it's a joint account. What's the protocol there? What are you meant to do? What are we meant to do in that scenario?
Yeah.
Well, when we say about someone pass away, obviously the direct debits are going to go through anyway to carry on. No problem with that.
The direct debits continue.
Obviously, if you need to leave to buy a supermarket on that, it's going to be a problem. So just go through that situation as you are living normally, but whenever the acceptance of inheritance is going to be done, obviously you need to inform the bank in order to say, well, everything goes through, get a certification about the day that the deceased died, and at the end get all the information in order to bring it to the acceptance on inheritance and a notary in order to unblock the situation.
Right. So I was going to say, because you still have to go through all the process. The account might be blocked
eventually.
Yeah.
I wouldn't tell the bank straight away. That's
what I wanted to know.
Yeah, because they will block 50%.
Not at the beginning.
They will block at least 50% of the account, and probably you need that money. And it's very clear that it's husband to wife, wife to husband. So the bank is trying in a way to create a protocol to protect the beneficiaries. Exactly. That's the real game. The real aim of the bank. But the bottom line is they make their life more difficult, because if you don't have
if you can't pay the mortgage,
correct.
Well, the mortgage is going to be paid.
That is going to happen on a direct debit.
Mortgage, direct debit is like electricity, water, is like that it will be paid anyway.
Okay.
So we're more of the opinion to declare that situations once we're going to complete on the probate the week before, so we could get the certificate and attach it to it, but not the very beginning, because if it makes your life more difficult because you're running out of money, and the money is going to be yours anyway.
Obviously, we're talking about situations where it's not fraud.
In terms
of
you're not going to go out and take a big loan.
Whoever is in the account is the one who is a beneficiary.
Correct. Correct.
Obviously, if you were someone which is not beneficiary, it is in the account, we will never recommend you to do that.
Obviously. Of course. But I was wondering about that situation where, I guess once you've kind of got things together and you've been to the notary, you've got the paperwork, that's when you go to the bank, right?
Well, 1 week before, we prepare the paperwork from the bank. Yeah.
Excellent.
So before completion is whenever you're ready to because once you disclose that information, they will block it. So you need to be prepared for it.
Once we get, obviously, the death certificate and the ultima voluntatis, which is a certification that says that if you sign a will or not, in which notary, and then we have a copy of the will made in a notary. So
we know that they're all in Madrid.
We know specifically this is the will, this is the date, this was signed, this is the latest declaration by the testator. So we know that will, you are the beneficiary, or whoever it is the beneficiary, or with the applicable law, Spanish or English, whatever. And then we will know perfectly about that. Because the banks obviously is a situation that makes some struggle.
It's protecting itself. I know, Ignacio, you're being very nice and saying that they're looking after the beneficiaries, but I think they're looking after themselves. And we know, because it happens quite often, where people suddenly find, wow, what am I going to do? And one partner has passed away. So again, it's back to the planning. isn't it?
Correct.
Get everything in place whilst you're still compos mentis before you start to get ill or anything else. It just makes sense to have that will ready. And like you said, there are a few other things that you can do to make sure, like power of attorney, for instance, and things like that, so that things go straight forward should something happen to you. And don't tell the bank until you've spoken to your lawyer.
Yeah, that will be the bottom line.
Speak to your lawyer first.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, even though they're trying to protect that way, the bottom line is that you could go into a situation and you're going to be anyway the beneficiary. So normally is husband to wife, wife to husband.
Indeed.
So I think it's quite important.
Imagine the problem with the Spanish tax system, with the Spanish system, because 2/3 of our assets goes to our children.
I see.
And so all the money you have in account.
That's where you were talking about you're going to the beneficiaries, so they're protecting the beneficiaries. I understand that now.
Exactly. In Spanish tax system, when the applicable is Spanish, so this is why we recommend in the will, in case you are foreigner, to say, well, my own law is applicable, in this case, the English law, for example. But with the Spanish law, 2/3 of my assets, my example, I have 2 children, 2/3 of my assets goes to my children.
Yeah.
So 2/3 of my bank account goes to my children, 2/3 of my properties goes to my children. So, and that's something that we cannot unblock. So this is why the banks do this.
It's compulsory.
Absolutely.
We
I get
cannot,
it, yeah.
Where Spanish people, we cannot do, unfortunately, like you guys do, is leave everything to whoever we want. That's the truth.
Yeah.
We cannot.
We
We're
have
not
limitations
allowed.
on that, yeah.
We're not allowed to dispose our assets if we pass away. I mean, 2/3 goes to is a rule, goes to our children, as Pedro said, and the other 1/3 you could do whatever you like, but only 1/3. But in your situation, especially
So
British,
expats, for instance, or
well, not all the
Not
expats,
all
no
expats,
expats,
but,
British, Americans, Commonwealth countries, freedom of disposing assets. You could leave everything to whoever you wish.
get that will done and
And
plan
to
it.
be, I wish one day Spain will do the same, will allow us to have free. Because in general terms, I don't see problems of that system. We've been dealing with this system many years.
More than 100 years ago. Yeah.
And I don't see...
140 years ago.
Which one? You talking about the civil code?
Civil code, yeah.
Yeah, we're ruled by the civil code. And this is 1890 probably rules. Hasn't changed. And I speak to the notaries whether this will be changed, and it doesn't seem like that we're going to go like you guys do, like freedom of disposal of assets. I think your system is much better because it gives more freedom to the testator
to make the decision.
To make the
this
decision.
if you've got the opportunity, we should plan it. We've got a question. So if a partner is going to die imminently, is it possible to change the name on the bank, except the partner? Hang on. Yeah, to change the name on the bank for just the one partner.
Well, if the client wants to do it, I mean, if the person is capable to go to the bank and do it, he could do whatever he wants to do.
Well, if they're about to...
But if you're not with capacity to do it, it's not possible. Because unless you had already power of attorney given, you cannot do that.
I think what the listener is asking for the partner to have full control over the new account.
Without power of attorney, it's not possible.
So you need to plan that power of attorney ahead.
If you're going to
regardless
hospital.
if you don't have to be ill to get this in place.
Correct.
You should do this planning.
But there is a lot of clients that have hospital appointments and they know something could go wrong and they do this planning. And I always recommend power of attorney is very important, especially if you're trying to sell your property and you're in a health condition, because it could block the sale completely. Because you cannot go to the notary to sign, you didn't grant power of attorney, and then it's stuck.
It's quite normal. I mean, sometimes notaries go to hospital to sign a will or to sign a power of attorney.
Of course,
normal,
that has happened, yeah.
But as long as they are capable to make the decision.
To understand what they're
have to be able to make
understand
that.
what they're signing.
Which